back to the Name Redacted podcast, America's most beloved podcast, the most downloaded Red Sox podcast in the world. Cat's out of the bag. Loomer is in the house tonight. We got Lou Merloni, one of the Clark's Ketchup Series MVP voting panel analyst. He's on Nesson. He's on EEI. He's everywhere. He's on your X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, posting his videos. He is a fixture within Red Sox Nation. I even think I said when we had Will Fleming on, Lou Merloni probably definitely the smartest Red Sox voice that we have right now. I don't even know who would even be close right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. Appreciate
who the fuck, Lou? Who is smarter than you about the Red Sox that isn't employed by the Red Sox?
Zolak. And Milliken knows it. He fucking knows it. You know,
he was spitting today. He was telling you, Craig Breslow, failure already.
Did he really say that?
Of course it is.
It was more just, he's a nerd, so it's not going to work. And, that got me going.
Dude, Theo's a nerd. Like, you got to give the nerds a chance. You got to give the nerds a chance. They're only, like, not all nerds are created equal. I think that we can come to that agreement.
Especially a nerd that had a 13-year pitching career in the big leagues and a nerd that won in the city and knows what that's like, what comes with all that stuff. People act like that's just a small thing. And Lou, that was one of the things I was going to ask you. Like,
go ahead.
You played in the city. You know what it means. Like, that's just, you can't throw something like that away.
No. And just getting on Breslow, it's like, first off, I do think that he's probably a year or two, maybe like away from this job, maybe another year of experience. But the one thing I do love is the fact that just the player background, right? I look at Chris Young down in Texas, and I almost feel like that guy at the deadline's never going to leave his team down, unless there's just injuries and they're out of it, right? And they're always going to give a shot because he knows what that's like. Like, he knows all the bullshit that everybody hears, like when they don't make a move, it's because we believe in the team. We all know it's that bullshit, and so this is a guy that I think, yes, he's a nerd. There's no question. Look around. This is what the game is. But the fact that he played in the league for so long, knows the clubhouse dynamic, which I think is huge. That's probably what I like the most about it. I know he's a genius, and a very bright guy. I like to see him bring someone with experience, that Bill LaJoy, Frank Wren at some point along with him. But I like it. I like it. I think it's creative. I think you got a guy maybe a year or two ahead of time, but if you brought him in as the second guy, all that does is make you lose him in a year or two. So I kind of understand what happened here.
Or he wouldn't come at all. But you're the one that flipped me on it, Lou, because it's not that I don't think that he can do it. It was more so that I just kind of, there's so much semantics and bullshit that went along with this search. I don't know if you feel the same way, but you just saying right now, like you prefer a guy with a little bit more experience. And if you bring him in to be the two, that means that you just leave the door open to lose him. The reports were that he wasn't coming unless he was the number one. So that's the trouble that you run into there. But you sold me on it when, it was just rumored that it was going to be Breslow, and then it became Breslow. And I was like, do you like it? And when you mentioned the point about, because I didn't want to steal your take, but it's how I feel now that you've said it, is being a former player, being someone that played here, you're getting a guy that's never going to leave the team high and dry because he knows what it feels like to be in a clubhouse that gets abandoned at the trade deadline. And he can't do that to his own guys now. Like, that's what sold me after 4 fucking years of, and I like time. And we'll get into the Craig Breslow press conference and what we took out of it. I like time as a guy, but it drove me fucking nuts when year after year you would just see a trade. And it's like, I get the Christian Vasquez trade in hindsight worked out, but like, that didn't help them then. Like, you needed to help the team then multiple times. And it just didn't happen. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it, is he's won here before. We're getting all the good nerd things. Like, nerd things are good. We want nerd things, but we don't want someone running the team that doesn't understand the ins and outs of being a big league ball player. Like, you're getting the best of both worlds right now.
And see, I like what you said earlier too. Like, not all nerds are built the same, right? It's like looking down and seeing 2 dimes, like 2 12 pieces, right? And just smoke shows. Well, one's crazy and one's not. Like, just because they're good looking doesn't mean they're freaking normal, So you got a guy, you mentioned Hein Bloom. I think we all agree. Like, I really like Hein Bloom. I really think he's a good guy. Like, I think he's going to go somewhere else. He's still young. I still think there's something there. He'll help an organization. And we just completely shit on everything he did, right? Last year's team, everyone's talking about Kluber. No one's talking about Jansen and Martin and Turner and Duvall and fuck, you know what I mean? Like all these other dudes that came in here that actually performed at a high level. The issue was the trade deadline. The issue was he couldn't make a decision. Like that, I think, is what cost him. I think that, this past deadline, I think that the inactivity, one way or the other, it was just like, dude, like and that's what you heard Breslow today a little bit too, talking about. To me, it almost seemed like he was leaning to, yeah, we got money, but let's not forget trades. And we have to look into trades. We have to trade.
There was like a fucking threat, Lou. He was like, yeah. You need someone that's going to look these prospects in the eyes and tell them to go fuck themselves.
Right.
I traded my kid's favorite player.
Yeah, like he basically was like, pitching the premium of acquiring top level pitching. It's going to take prospects. Like we're going to have to do that. And that, for all the people out there that are saying, oh, it's another nerd, it's Chaim Bloom 2.0. Like, no, like the whole thing about Chaim. No one said he's a dumbass. No one said that he didn't know baseball. No one said that he didn't have an eye for talent. What we did say was that he was not going to be the guy that made the difficult choice, the difficult decision. Breslow is telling you 5 minutes into his press conference, I have the ability and the willingness to make the difficult decision, and I'm going to do it if I'm given the opportunity to do it.
Because they have to. I mean, they have to. I think you realize that. It's like, and I don't know if that was the plan. Use this guy to build up the farm system. Don't trade anybody. So when we bring in the next guy, he has assets to trade. But you absolutely think about it. This outfield, like we've talked about in the past, like I have no idea what's going to happen in this outfield. You've got like 4 or 5 options out there. And the reality is probably only 2 should be out there at some point. The others should go, and you got to bring in another power guy to go with maybe some defense that's out there. So, he's got to make trades. And I just feel like the last couple of deadlines, and you guys may have heard the stories too, and rumors or whatever you want, but there were a lot of teams that were just shutting him out, because it was like, thought I had a deal done. The last minute I'm coming for like the best prospect we have. And it's sort of like, what the fuck? I thought we already agreed on the dude. I thought this was done. And that sort of creates, just bad reputations around the game. And if your GM can't make trades or his people aren't picking up the phone calls, then, you have to go out there and find somebody who's willing to make those tough calls. I think that's what I kind of took out of this press conference you guys just mentioned right out of gate. He's talking about free agents. He's like, yep, but we also need to trade. Mm-hmm. We also need to make trades, right? And use these guys, these minor leagues.
And we never saw that, Lou.
No.
Like we never, like when Chaim Bloom came over, we kept hearing about the Chris Archer for Glasnow and Baz and Meadows, like that deal. Like we're a team, the Pittsburgh Pirates just got absolutely fucking fleeced. It's like, oh man, like we got a guy that it's not as the Dave Dombrowski blueprint was. Yeah, I can take the top 3 prospects in the system and they're all top 100 guys and turn that into an ace. No problem. Most executives should be able to do that. But bringing in Chaim was the sense of, all right, now I can kind of take like, this broken piece here and turn it into 3 blue chip prospects immediately overnight. And it just never happened. And not only did it not happen, we didn't even get a rumor. Like we didn't even hear a fucking like, oh, this is in the works, or like the Red Sox are talking to this team. And like there was nothing. And it drove me nuts. Maybe not at first, but after a couple of years, how we kept hearing about, well, Chaim runs a tight ship. It's a tight ship that they're running over there. That's why the rumors aren't getting out. Well, when nothing fucking happens, ultimately, then is it that he runs a tight ship or that there was just nothing going on to that magnitude to leak in the first place?
Yeah, I think that was probably, I look back at when I first thought Bloom was coming here, I looked at some of the trades. That's what I thought of, some trades, right? I thought the trades that Tampa Bay made, like you look at their fantastic bullpen, they all required through trades. We're going to trade Adames to Milwaukee. We're going to get Rasmussen and Fire Eisen. And you're like, who the fuck are these guys? Next thing you know, they're lights out. One's a starter, one's a reliever. You're like, how do you pull this shit off?
Fairbanks was not a dude.
A minor league trade, like just somebody from AAA. We get your AAA player. Your AAA players actually turns out to be a lot better than ours. Like that's how Tampa does it. Like these small, under the radar, when they make trades, you have no idea who the dudes are. And they turn into just that, dudes, And there was literally none of that. at all. It was like stockpiling like all these trades, whether it was like Moreland or Pilar, it was like just fillers, just like AA fillers. We need a second baseman. You know what I mean? We don't think he's any good. We just need fillers in our upper levels. And just none of those guys panned out.
Yeah. I mean, I look back to the Vasquez trade in particular. That we could look back on that as a huge win. And it's the point has been made before. It's not a revelation to be able to say, when the Red Sox went in 2004, a lot of Dan Duquette fingerprints on that roster. Same with 2007. There's still some remnants of that. And then the Ben Cherington fingerprints on the 2018. There were still some fucking Theo guys lingering around. You're going to get that mix. And I do believe that the next time the Red Sox win the World Series, that there will be Heim fingerprints on that roster. Like there will still be pieces of his that are still within the organization that did pan out, people that, maybe he never even gets credit for in the first place. But it all boils down to he was not relieved of his duties because the Red Sox finished in last place in back-to-back seasons. I do believe that they just heard from other organizations where there's smoke, there's fire, teams being like, I can't work with this guy. Like it's unreasonable or whatever. And then that ultimately led to his dismissal. And I still think we haven't heard the full story. I don't know when we will hear the full story, but I don't think that it's super important right now because you have, I think, maybe what they were looking for in Heim, they could now have in Breslow. Like you want the whole reason why they got Heim is because they want that Tampa mentality, but they also need that Theo Epstein, that Dave Dombrowski, that I'm going to just go for it mentality. It can't all be Tampa because it's not Tampa. You're going to have to make the big move because it's Boston, but you need to have the eye to bring in the Garrett Whitlocks of the world while also being able to swing a deal for a frontline starting pitcher that it may hurt a little bit in terms of the farm system. But if you've got the eye to build talent, you just build the fucking farm system right back up. So it's kind of just hoping for the bet. It's if Dave Dombrowski and Chaim Bloom were to have a baby, you're hoping that that's Craig Breslow.
Well, it's what you hoped Chaim Bloom was going to grow into in Andrew Friedman. That was the guy. We all sat here, Andrew Friedman is Chaim Bloom's dad. I said it a million times when Bloom, through 2020 and 2021, he just never took that leap. There was never that spot for him where he kind of said, all right, now we push the chips in. We're going to go give out this massive Mookie Betts contract and kind of push everything in to be that championship caliber club. Even when you pay Rafael Devers, you end up staying under the luxury tax this past year. It's not a true sign of commitment. And you speak, back to the 2022 deadline. We may look at Wilyer Abreu and Emmanuel Valdez and say that was a great deal for Chaim Bloom. Well, the truth is, how did that deal end up happening? They shut down the trade for Wilson Contreras originally. They ended up, ownership said, hey, we're not going to go that route. Well, what did the Astros do? And it's what Bloom really struggled to do. They said, hey, we're okay maybe losing this trade. We think if we get Christian Vasquez here, that's what wins us a World Series. Yep. We don't have to win this trade 80-20. Bloom was kind of always in that mindset where, he got the praise the minute the Vasquez deal got done. Whoever it was, industry scout said, oh yeah, the Red Sox did really well. Well, yeah, they got a team that was in a tough spot and forced their hand. Well, what happens when you got to make that deal that's like chicken, basically? Like, hey, this might end up looking really good for them and we may look stupid, or this might be the move that gets us over the hump and we make the playoffs because of it. It was just always kind of trying to go too far to win it. And you speak to the real story, right? The truth is, the real story with the front office and Chaim Bloom has been starting to leak out for a year now. It started a year ago when that June Lee column came out. Yep. And he basically said there were rumblings that they felt like Bloom could not, maybe he was asking for too many opinions. He wasn't really able to make the decision. Then he started obsessing over the Yoshida contract, the Story contract, right? All these things pile up. What's the first thing we hear out of Chad Jennings after the Craig Breslow thing? There's people inside the front office that are worried he operates too similar to Chaim Bloom. They don't look at scouts in the same way. Right? Like scouts' opinions aren't held high. And whether you want to connect that to the Eddie Romero side and maybe them not feeling like their voices are heard, but I think that's the major theme. The fact that came out within 24 hours of Breslow getting hired, I think that's the whole message here. A lot of people are worried that the Red Sox have gone too far in that direction. And, I think credit to them. They said, hey, we believe that those analytical models, that sustainability is so big for us, but we're also hoping he can make those major deals and be the difference maker. He can branch everyone together and get them moving in one direction, which he said like 8 different times today.
Yeah, but I also think that's like a natural reaction for some of those guys that are like kind of scout based in that organization. Came up as scouts, you know. You mentioned Eddie Romero, right? Scout, you know, and I don't know if it's coming from him or other people in that organization. It's just a natural reaction, sort of like you were saying, kind of like the sports radio take, right? Great, another nerd. Just put them all in. It's just another nerd, you know. But again, they're not all built the same. So, you know, what I like about him too is like the pitching mindset of it, right? Like the whole how he's breaking it down, how he's improving, what he did to the Cubs system, how quick you can implement that here. Because when you look at a lot of these guys, right? Last year you had 3 guys down in AAA, in Murphy and Walter and Mata, and it was like, there's your depth. And you're saying when the season started, he said, "Good Lord, I mean, you know, they've got 7 starters. Remember those days out of camp, and you got 3 guys in AAA. Well, none of them have taken the next step." You know, and then you've got these swing guys with Houck. Hasn't taken the next step. Hasn't been able to harness all of his stuff. You know, Whitlock, kind of I don't know if he took it the same way I did, but it sounds like Whitlock will be a reliever, right? He did mention how guys bouncing back and forth, solidify a spot wherever that is. But just looking for these guys that are talented with big arms, like why aren't they taking the next step? And if Breslow can kind of have that special sauce and kind of figure that out to help them, I think that's an advantage right there for you.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm assuming that you believe today the Red Sox are in a better position than they were on Chaim Bloom's final day of employment. I
do, only because I kind of...
Well, the follow-up is by how much? Is it slightly better? Is it significantly better? Like that's where I was going with it.
I mean, I would say it was significantly better because I don't really know. I don't want to sit here a year from now and be like, what the fuck? You know, what is he doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But at the same point, like, I already knew, like, I wasn't surprised by this. I heard a lot of people say, like, if the Red Sox knew that, like, Craig Breslow would be the alternative, they would have kept Chaim Bloom. No, they were moving on from him no matter what, because they already knew what was going on. And really the only blind spot, and, you know, there's a couple, obviously defense being one of them, but blind spot was the trade deadline. He wasn't going to be able to make these trades. So the fact that I know that a guy that's unable to make the trades is gone leaves me hope that the next guy might be able to. The bottom line is we don't know. Like, we have no idea if he can or if he can't. But I know we get rid of somebody that I just didn't have, feel like he was going to be able to pull that off. Right. So I feel better about the unknown, I guess, because I already knew what it was before.
Things are heating up in the ballpark, and the chase to crown a champion is on. Rangers won. With DraftKings Sportsbook, you won't miss a moment of the baseball action. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on baseball. Plus, all customers can take a crack at a sweet payday with DraftKings same-game parlays. String together multiple bets from a single game for your shot at a major payout. So what are you waiting for? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code JARED. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on baseball. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code JARED. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after insurance, opt-in, and 10-plus leg requirement for 100% boost. Eligibility, wagering, and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/baseball terms. I think, I'm in a similar mindset. I can say I think the Red Sox are in a better position just because of one of the lines that I think Chaim maybe touched on it a couple of times, but like it wasn't with the same amount of conviction. Where today we heard payroll and financial flexibility should be no limitations for us. Like I didn't hear a lot of that during the Chaim era.
Yeah.
Like it was a lot of just like, we gotta fucking find a way, man. it is what it is. And I think when Sam Kennedy would meet with the media a lot, he would always talk or reference where the Red Sox were in MLB payroll, and it was always somewhere near the top. And it's like, all right, that's great, but like, when is the last time you made a big splash financially? And yes, you have the Devers contract, but you retained a player that was already here. When's the last time that you went all out to bring in a player from the outside? When's the last time that you made some sort of financial commitment to a guy that had the same impact as Manny Ramirez when he came to Boston from Cleveland? Like, it's been a long fucking time. I think, mentally I go back to, and it didn't work out, like Adrian Gonzalez. Like, I think that's exactly what the Red Sox fans are hoping for with this Juan Soto situation is identify the guy, go get the guy, pay the fucking guy.
Yeah.
And
I think in those terms, like I was just more focusing Breslow to Heim, but I think the organization's in a much better spot. We were saying it even before. If they move on from Heim, Bloom, whoever comes in here is in a good spot. Number one, and you heard it today, I do think ownership, was it Tom Werner that was like, go get starters? Like
full throttle.
Yeah, full throttle. Let's face it, 2 years straight, last place. I think this ownership, they're very reactionary, and it's like, okay, we can't keep doing this. Number two, like the prospects, the levels that they're at now, they're no longer in low A and high A. You see the trade market last offseason, guys like Pablo Lopez, they don't want like an A-ball prospect or three of them. They want a big league bat. They want a AAA bat that they feel better about, more certain about at the higher levels. So now your prospects, you've got position players, whether it's AA and Meyer and Anthony. I don't think either one may be available, but still, you've got Duran with a year under his belt. You got Rafaela who showed. You got Abreu that showed. You got Valdez that showed. I mean, you got a lot of young guys, that have showed now in the big leagues or AA, AAA. So you actually have your assets are more tradable now than they've ever been. So, and let's face it, you got some pretty intriguing arms, and whether they're starters, relievers, you got some, bats. So you're in a much better spot. Take away even if Heim was here, you were in a much better spot, right? But I just don't know if you were going to pull off that trade, which is something I think they need to do.
If you're Breslow, do you feel pressure to kind of make a big trade just because you kind of put your nuts on the table and you know what the situation was before you got here and where the fan base is at in terms of frustration and what assets you have and what needs you have? It kind of just lines up for, I got to do something in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm glad you talked about the trades too, because people are like, he's going to make a big splash. Who's he going to sign? What's his first big move? And I'm like, free agent signing isn't necessarily a GM as much as it is owner. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Yamamoto, 7 years, 230. How crazy does it get? 8 years, 260. What? Well, that's an ownership call, right? The GM move is putting some big time prospects, right? Top 5 prospect in a trade. And kind of looking at the situation and saying there's value here. We're moving on from this guy, these 2 players to get this player. To me, that's more of like I keep calling them GM because we all know that's what they are, right? I don't care what the label is, CBO, whatever. But that to me is like the big move for the GM, the pressure move for the GM pulling off a trade, because going out and getting Yamamoto, no shit. Any GM can pull that off, right? If the freaking owner says, yeah, we'll give you 270, we're good. Who gives a shit? So, I mean, that's nothing. The trade's where it's at.
Yeah. And I saw who had that list, Milliken? Was it fucking Nightingale? Who had the list of
Bowden?
It was Bowden. Of
every best fit.
Yeah. Like they had like Glasnow on there, Biebs. I mean, like nothing. Like obviously, when you look at the position player side of things in the trade market, you automatically go straight to Juan Soto. Is there a name that your eyes light up for in the trade market for starting pitchers?
Well, starting pitchers. I mean, I kind of like Dylan Cease. I mean, that kind of lights me up a little bit.
You obviously heard the rumors on what they fucking wanted for him.
Yeah, and
Bayo
part of me almost didn't even believe it. Part of me was
me neither. That's what I'm saying.
That was floated out there just to make everybody back off. You know what I mean? And be like, look, we tried, but they wanted Bayo. You know what I mean? And you're like, fucking really? Like they wanted the kid at the time had like a 3.6 ERA, and he's like one of the better young pitchers in the game. And you're like, really? So, but no, he's definitely a guy you're in. Corbin Burns, he's another one that's in there. And I tell you, for me, it's like I will be keeping an eye on the Seattle Mariners. Like to me, they sort of feel like the Miami Marlins of last offseason. who are going to sit there and say, we need bats. You know, we sucked until our offense got going. And then when they got hot, we rolled. And then they got cold again and we sucked again. Like they have so many young starters that I just wonder if you can kind of dabble into that a little bit and pull off a Kirby or a Gilbert or something like that and try to get them over here by throwing in, you know, some of your big prospects or some of your ready bats at the big league level.
Which one do you prefer?
What's that?
Which one do you prefer?
Doesn't it seem like Kirby's more attainable, seeing that he refused to go in the seventh inning? I got really pissed off.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, that motherfucker talks his way out of a top 50
And wasn't Kirby
prospect.
the one that threw the knuckleball too?
Yes.
Yeah.
See? I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Bring the catcher with you too.
Yeah. Yeah. What were you gonna say, Tyler?
But yeah, I think when you start talking those trades, like that's where like Lou hits with like, you know, the Jarren Durans. And I think, you know, the first prospects everyone kind of goes to in these trade combos, right?
Yep.
It's Ceddanne Rafaela, it's Nick York. And then you get to that outfield conversation. Duran, Wilyer Abreu, who I know Lou has a crush on.
I do.
Lou, you spread that love across Red Sox fans everywhere. I was listening to games on the way home from work all the time and, you know, hearing you drool over the plate approach, you know, obviously he can play 3 outfield spots.
Yeah,
he is. And it's one of those rare things that goes to prove, you know, you look at prospect rankings, when you have certain tools and a certain skill set, it plays differently at the big league level. You see how those traits kind of fit in. You can kind of, you know, jump above what people thought of you. Is Wilyer Abreu out of that group like almost an untouchable to you? Are you willing to move off of a Rafaela or a Duran a little bit more quickly to hold on to a guy like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would. He's not off the table, not at all. You know, for someone like up in Seattle, like Kirby Gilbert, something like that. I mean, you know, you do wonder if this, you know, Verdugo's value probably isn't what it should have been if he had played a second half like he did in the first half. But you know, if you keep Verdugo, which I think everyone just assumes he's being traded, which I think there's a high percentage of that, but you don't have to. You know, he is the only defender you have. He's got 1 year left. This isn't Bogey and Mookie that you're like, dude, if you don't extend him, you got to move on for him. Can't get nothing for Verdugo. Bullshit. Yeah, you can. Let him play the year and get him the hell out. You know, whatever. It's no big deal. Toronto did that with Chapman. So, but Abreu, I like him. I just think he's different. He's not off the table, though. Like, his approach is like, he is so soft at the plate. It's why he has a good eye. Like, his load and his timing. It's almost like he's taking pitches, you know, but he's not, you know. And then next thing you know, he just explodes. And, you know, the bat, the swing, I think he drives the ball the other way, stays on off speed. He can turn on fastballs. Like, to me, he's just different, you know, which sort of speaks to like prospect rankings, you know, because to me, he almost looks like the best hitter in the organization. I know there's other guys, it's about ceiling and what they can become and everything. But as far as first impressions go, that was fun to watch. So nobody's off the table. You know, Duran's another guy. Like, I like him, but you know, I'm sure some team would love him too. It's where the game is going, you know. And if you feel like you can get a thumper in one of the corner outfields and you sort of grin and bear, although Rafael, I think, still a time away, and just take the defense in center because you got Pop in right or Pop in left, and now you got a stud on the mound. Like, fuck yeah, you do that all day, every day.
And like, that's the whole puzzle here. And I think that's why, you know, Cotillo put out the little Justin Turner piece a couple days ago where I think everyone's been kind of sitting here wondering, like, are they going to just choose to move Yoshida? And it kind of makes this outfield puzzle a little bit easier to work with here. But yeah, I think that's like Breslow's first real kind of crisis to figure out here. If you're bringing Justin Turner back or you're not, that can completely change your outfield picture. Then you're talking, are you bringing Adam Duvall back to play left field for you and do some of those different things? You know, and then you can kind of use Yoshida in almost a JD Martinez like role. I don't know. I think you look at the World Series and how all this stuff played out, where athleticism means so much. And that's why like Jarren Duran sticks out. But even you look at Evan Carter, that guy shows up 21 years old. Why can't that be Roman Anthony?
Yeah.
Why can't that be, you know, Kyle Teal, Marcel Meyer? Those guys were all in that same spot. It's just, I think with Craig Breslow not having that same connection as Chaim Bloom, they're not your guys. Right. They are, but you aren't the ones that kind of dropped them in the system. That might open the door with a team like the White Sox if you want Dylan Cease, because he's not Chris Getz guy. You know, that's another guy, former player who came in and joined that organization this year. I don't know. I think that creativity, like you said with Chaim Bloom, I always wanted it. I always wanted to see those deals that no one saw coming come to the surface. Breslow needs to find a way to kind of put those together.
Yeah, and I agree. The thing about Yoshida, though, I don't think you move. I don't think you, first of all, I don't know if you can move him. I don't think you do move him. In America, when you trade a guy, it's business, and people get offended early in their careers. They don't get it. Then you realize it's a business. In Japan, it's disrespectful. And I'm afraid that would go off like not very well over there, to the point where, do you want to play for the Red Sox? No. May go there for a year. They're going to
Yamamoto.
I don't think that's a very smart business deal. That's not the reason why you don't do it, but I do think that's real. I do think that over there, they would view that as disrespectful, taking one of their great players for a year and then just trading them away and sending them somewhere else a year after he decided to come to you. Right. So I don't think that's something you can do.
I think I was speaking more in terms of the DH spot with him, right? If he was to move into
hopefully
that,
he plays 60 games, 50 games in the outfield. That's it.
Treat him like 2018 JD.
And I know that makes it really hard to bring back Turner, because the reality is you need a right-handed bat. When you look at the right-handed bats in free agency, you have two of the top three in Duvall and Turner. That's literally what we're talking about. Teoscar Hernandez, right, is another guy. The right-handed bats, they're not there, which is why I always felt like, you sign a starting pitcher, go for one of the big dogs, whatever it may be. You trade for a guy, maybe that Seattle thing I was talking about. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, I don't know if you can afford to do that. I think the trade's got to be the right-handed bat. I think at some point you got to go out there and look for a right-handed bat and make a trade or another bat in the trade, and then just go sign two starters.
That was one of the biggest things that stood out to me today with Craig Breslow, because I felt like whenever Heim would speak, we got nothing. There was not even a signal of what he was interested in or what they were looking for. David Dombrowski, the polar opposite, telling you, we need an ace. Well, here's David Price, a few months later. It's that simple.
We need a closer.
Us.
Here's a Hall of Fame closer.
Don't think twice and, accept it. Breslow was somewhere in the middle today saying, no, we definitely need, top of the rotation starters. We need a right-handed bat. For him to come out and say some of those things, I think, Jared, going back to your point, that feels like the fusion, right? I'm getting some of that Dombrowski and I'm getting some of that Bloom. Talk to me about sustainability, but also tell me what you want and what we should expect this offseason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, we're never gonna, we were so spoiled with Sugar Daddy Dave that it's just never gonna be that good again. We didn't know how fucking good we had it. It's hey, we need a starter. Oh, here's the best starting pitcher on the market. We're gonna make him the highest paid pitcher in baseball history. Oh, we need a closer. Oh, let's get the legit best closer out there. Oh, we need a right-handed bat. Oh, let's get the fucking best right-handed bat since Manny Ramirez. Sugar Daddy Dave. Oh, the trade deadline, you need a starter? All right, how about a fucking postseason legend? You need a bench guy, right-handed bat bench guy? Let me go grab you the World Series MVP. Yeah. It's just never going to be like that again. But it's not to say that Breslow can't come close. And I think part of what I was hoping to hear, because what I tweeted after the press conference was, it's nothing against Breslow. I think he said all of the right things. But at this point in the timeline, post 2018, I don't care what you say. I need to see it. You can say, hey, we're full throttle. Okay. The fuck does that mean? Until I see you spend fucking $220 million on Yamamoto and $150 on Nola and God knows how much on Shohei Ohtani, which we'll get to that, Lou, because I know that you have opinions on Shohei Ohtani. Yeah. But until I see some monster financial commitment on the free agent market, what does full throttle even mean? And we'll probably find that out. I mean, it's not because, obviously with Nathan Eovaldi doing what he just did in the World Series, we keep hearing about Nathan Eovaldi and the Boston Red Sox. And even McAdam had the piece about letting him go. That's just not what happened. They made him the best offer that he got. It's just that they made it to him in November. Right. And then he got an offer in January that wasn't as good from the Texas Rangers. They went back to the Red Sox, and the Red Sox are we've already allocated those dollars elsewhere. So we know that the Red Sox can be somewhat aggressive in November. Things could happen quickly. But when we talk about some of these names, the Shohei Ohtanis of the world, the Yamamotos of the world, maybe Nola's not in that same tier. Or Blake Snell, which I don't even know that he's interested in coming here. But you have some of these names. It's going to take a little while. I don't think that we're going to be It's not going to be like, hey, I have this grocery lists of items that I want to acquire. Like, let's go get some shit done before Christmas. It could be a little bit to see this thing mature and shake out.
That's actually what sucks about the off season now, right? Is that everything just takes too long. Like free agency opens and you're like, all right, let's go. And it's like, no, actually just sort of, and to be honest with you, it's worse than it's ever been. Cause I remember like winter meetings was awesome. It used to be awesome. Go down there, shit was happening all the time. I remember that whole the Carl Crawford thing, like out of nowhere, like 12 at night, I'm down there hanging out with Millard.
2019 was good. 2019 was good. That was in San Diego. We got Cole, we got Rendon. I forget who else. It was a monster.
But it's not even that anymore. It's almost like, then there was used to be like, oh, listen, all these guys want to know by Christmas, and we're not even there anymore. Now it's like January, and it's like, Jesus. I mean, good God, you spent 3 months with all these plans of like how it shakes out and you have no idea because these guys don't jump. So maybe that's the time you make trades. Maybe that's the time you kind of pull off a trade while everything settles in.
Mm-hmm. I think that's like the little bit of a wild card people aren't talking about with Yamamoto. Like he has to get posted. Obviously, they're finishing up everything over there in Japan right now. But depending when he's posted and he's out there, all that money, if you're in love with him and we know every big market team is going to be throwing in a bid, if you're kind of sitting on the sidelines hoping, I don't know, you might start late on another negotiation, you fall back behind, and then before you know it, you're reaching for all these different things and you don't have that frontline pitcher you spent money on. And that's a big thing for me here where you definitely need to go out there and at least pay one of these arms. You can't use all these assets you're planning to, trade from your system for two. You need to spread this out. In a perfect world, I think you could spend money on two, but I think that's a little unrealistic when, you're trying to work in free agency and convince other, multiple guys that this is the place where you should be. You should be interested in coming here, and this is why it all makes sense together.
Mm-hmm.
What are you hearing, Lou, on the feedback from the hiring? Do people in your circles approve? Are they wait and see? Or are they like, should have just kept time?
No, I think a lot of people like Brez. I think the consensus is kind of what I hit on earlier, that they would like for him to probably have maybe a little bit more experience, in that job, making decisions, being in the office every single day. But at the same point, he was, a year or two away from having that job. And let's face it, like whoever you hired this time, the guy really can't stay for 4 years and be fired, right? Like you can't keep doing this. Like eventually, and I know it hurt a little bit this time around, but you can't keep doing it. So the idea is like, okay, the guy we hired this time is going to be around for like 10 years, and if you brought in Breslow just in the organization, there was no lateral move. He wouldn't have left. So I think people love the fact that he's in the organization, maybe a little surprised that he got the number one job. But at the same point, when you take a step back and say, well, if he didn't do that, and by year two, and you're thinking, wow, this guy's a freaking genius. He actually could be running this organization. He will be. It just won't be yours. You know what I mean? So, but I do think a lot of people feel like he needs to have some experience. I mean, hell, Dombrowski had Frank Wren. Dave Dombrowski, right? He still had a guy to kind of brush things off of once in a while, right? Like that's the concern. I mean, there's no question there's some risk here. How is he on a call? Negotiating with agents, trades. Like, how is he respected as far as around the league, talking about trades and everything else? So, the in-house stuff, I feel good about. The outside stuff is still a concern. Like, he's never been through it. He's never been strung along by an agent. He's never been bluffed by an agent, or another GM looking for a certain player. So, that's I think still a little risky. I think we all know that, but see how it plays out. See what he brings with him.
Yeah.
Do you think, Lou, like when you were talking about earlier about, Theo having LaJoy and all these different guys, through each regime, Chaim Bloom never had that. And I think that's one of the main things we all pin and say, if you could go back in time and have hired that, voice just for you to bounce off of, just for you to get that experience and understand when maybe someone's pulling the bag on you, just so you have a feel for it. When it comes to that GM spot for Breslow, do you think it's more important to maybe find a veteran voice that can lean on him, or would you prefer for him to go outside the organization and find, a great mind, maybe someone people aren't talking about, your own version of Carter Hawkins, right? Over with the Cubs. Would you prefer them to go that route, or even Eddie?
Yeah, see, I don't think the GM is that role. You know what I mean? I don't. Like, I think the GM could very well be Eddie Romero. It sounded today like they were in absolutely no rush to hire one, it's almost like we got other shit to worry about. We got like Rule 5, we got options, we got free agency. I'll worry about a GM when I get to it. But this is more of just literally like a senior advisor. Like that's all. And that's usually what those roles are, like Bill LaJoy wasn't, underneath Theo. He wasn't a GM. He was just an advisor. He was just somebody to talk to, right? So remember, even like when Cora first got the job, is when they brought what's his name with the A's, not Lasorda. No, Renicky. He ended up managing the White Sox.
Tony La Russa.
Yeah, like they brought La Russa in almost like to help the young Alex Cora kind of, and then they realized that La Russa's kind of wacky himself. So it's like sort of, that's what you do. That's what you do with someone inexperienced. And you say he's really good at the job, but there's nothing like experience. Going through all of those things for the very first time is sort of like, hey, just let you know, you got to stay on this thing. Just to let you know, you got to do this. Just to let you know, you got to do that. And I mean, hell, young Theo Epstein shows up at Kurt Schilling's house on Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Was he advised that, hey, you want this guy? You better go fucking get him. Let's go. This is what you do. Oh, okay. Really? Thanks. Okay, let's go. So I don't know. Did he come up on his own? So I just think that stuff matters.
Is that a Mike Port suggestion?
Yeah, right. Who knows?
All right, let's get to the Shohei Ohtani stuff, because I don't know that you and I are too far apart on the line of thinking. And I feel like you're getting crucified for it and I'm skating on it. Obviously I would love to have him here.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't want to be the team that breaks him. I don't want to be the team that he ages with to the point where when he becomes 36 years old, 37 years old, and he still has 5 years left on his deal, you're the one that has to tell him hey, maybe you just stick to hitting. Maybe you don't pitch anymore. Because that conversation is going to have to come with whoever fucking signs this guy. What Tim Britton just put out the thing. I saw 10 years. Now Tim Britton thinks he's going to get fucking 12 years. He's going to be signed until he's 42 years old. He's already getting fatigue and cramps and surgery. He's 30. He's 30. What the fuck is going to happen to this guy in 5 years? Never mind 12 years. The Padres are in financial ruin after signing Xander Bogaerts to an 11-year deal, and he don't pitch.
Yeah.
Come on. I don't know. Obviously, if you're John Henry, you're a very smart businessman. You have won 4 championships. You own many sports franchises and other businesses.
Yeah.
You could look at Shohei Ohtani and say, this is strictly business. I don't give a fuck what he does on the baseball field. This is a business decision.
Yeah.
I get it. Whatever.
Yep.
But from a baseball perspective, all I see, maybe it's just the pessimist in me, but I just see the red flags. I see the price tag. I see the long-term commitment, and I balk at it. I'm more in step with, I think, how you feel than the everyday Red Sox fan that's fuck yeah, why wouldn't we want the best baseball player maybe to ever live?
I would say this, I've always discussed this kind of short form, right? Whether it's on Twitter or with Will in a game, we go back and forth, and calls me an idiot and we go, whatever it is, right? But here's the deal. Number one, the short form answer for me was always this team needs pitching and defense. I don't need a DH. You know what I mean? Now, I know 2025. Now, I'm with you. If they go turn around and sign him tomorrow, you're oh, my God, here we go. It's a parade. It's going to be a show each and every day. It'd also be portrayed as a PR move. And the same people that want him will shred this team for just doing a PR move and not caring for winning. The same people
how does he fit?
Want him here. He does not fit, right? But the deeper part is, I'm one, and I know there's a lot of people out there that don't believe this, that there is a limit on how much this team is going to spend on players. There just is. They're not going to spend $325, $350 million. So there's not. There is a budget. Now, I'm not saying it should not be $270 million, because you should be living up in that range. Okay. But to put $30, $40 million on a DH who will pitch, and there's questions of how long he'll do it, which brings me to the real reason that you just hit on it. I don't think we appreciate enough what this guy does. The last 2 years. I really don't. People call him a unicorn, but I don't think you really have any understanding of what it takes to throw in the big leagues and be a starting pitcher every 5th day. The amount of work you got to do between starts, the massages, the ice, the long toss, the bullpens, the weights, the bands, all the work, the video, going over yourself, your mechanics, the science of it all now, the biomechanics, looking at yourself, watching video on other hitters, how to get these guys out. And then, oh, by the way, go in the cage and hit. Go in the weight room and lift differently. Go in the machine, the video room and watch yourself hit. Then go in BP and watch the opposing hitter. What this guy does on a daily basis is not sustainable. And it won't last. Enjoy it while you see it. Like, I don't think it'll last. The body will break down. And this was before he even got hurt, with the elbow. I was like, I think it's awesome. I think he is fantastic for the game. And I hope he comes back and pitches in 2025 for another year or two. I'd be shocked if it's any more than that at all. I really would be. I hope he goes. I hope he does it for 10 years. I just don't think you can do it at this level, what he has been doing, which is why I say we have never seen this before. I don't think we'll ever see this before at the level in which he does it. So will you get an MVP caliber bat? Sure. DH for $40 million? I don't know. I'm not in play. Yeah, I would rather have Yamamoto. Yes, it is official. Call me a fucking idiot. I don't give a shit. I want the arm. I do. I don't want the parade. I would love it, but I can guarantee your ass, all these people screaming and yelling, the Red Sox are cheap, go sign Ohtani. If they signed Ohtani, they would flip it and they would shred them for just doing a PR move like they did Theo Epstein's last few years. Shred them. And Milliken, you work with a lot of them.
Oh, 100%. And I can tell you right now, I can picture it all playing out because they'll go back. What was Craig Breslow talking about that day when he did the press conference? It was about pitching. Mm-hmm. Well, he's not going to be pitching this year. Right. He's not going to be able to offer you that. And I think the other dots you kind of connect are Sean McAdam had the report maybe a week after the regular season ended saying, John Henry still isn't in love with these, mega contracts, these 10-year deals or whatever. Justifying it for a guy in Shohei Ohtani who's going to be in his 40s at the end of that deal. That's a really tough pill to swallow. Yamamoto.
Real quick, let me jump in on that, Milliken. Mm-hmm. What John Henry hates is risk. This is the riskiest contract in probably baseball history.
Maybe sports history.
Yeah, if you guarantee him shit ton of money with the expectation of pitching, now we all know there'll be incentives, but still, that agent's going to make you pay, right? This is one of the riskiest contracts in baseball history.
Sports, like what? The equivalent is like, oh, what if I sign LeBron James to a 12-year deal, but like there's a slight chance that 5 years in his fucking leg might fall off. Mm-hmm. like that's what you're talking about with Shohei. It's like you're paying him for both. What are the odds that he does both for the next dozen years?
Not good. Not good.
And you talk analytics, it's so much about track record. It's being able to use past stuff to make predictions moving forward. You can't predict something that we've never seen. Right. It's Babe Ruth. That's the only thing. Ohtani, you watch it age, who knows? But if you're John Henry and Craig Breslow is coming up to you, it's a lot easier for Craig Breslow to tell you, hey, Yamamoto's 25 years old. We're going to give him 8-9 years, call it whatever it is. He'll be 34, 35. We're going to get the best years of this kid one way or the other. Yeah, he may blow an elbow out. We'll see whatever happens here. But you can promise and kind of bet on that prime, just like you're doing with Rafael Devers to some degree. It follows the same line of logic.
Yep.
Even under the bright lights of the playoffs, Blue Moon Belgian-style wheat ale is the beer that's made brighter. Blue Moon was born in a ballpark for baseball fans, first brewed at Coors Field in Denver, Colorado. From its bold, refreshing flavor to its beautiful, bright color, Blue Moon is as iconic as America's pastime. Tell listeners what you love most about enjoying Blue Moon. I've said this before, I always edit the podcast while drinking a Blue Moon, and it really helps me get through looking at Tyler's stupid, ugly face for 2 hours. With its refreshing flavor with Valencia orange peel for a subtle sweetness and hints of coriander, Blue Moon Belgian White Belgian-style wheat ale is a one-of-a-kind beer that's made brighter. It's carefully crafted and full-flavored with refreshing notes and a smooth, creamy finish. Blue Moon was brewed by baseball, so it's the perfect match for the playoffs. The crack of a beer, the pour, the first sip of that bold flavor, Blue Moon always feels like a special occasion. Best served with its signature orange garnish to showcase its beautiful, bright color. A beer this good only comes around once in a blue moon, but you can enjoy it all through the playoffs. Brighten up the baseball playoffs with Blue Moon Belgian-style wheat ale. It's one of a kind every time. Check out shop.bluemoonbrewingcompany.com for fresh baseball merch and visit get.bluemoonbeer.com/Jared to find Blue Moon delivery options. That's get.bluemoonbeer.com/Jared. Blue Moon, made brighter. Celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado Ale.
That's what I think they do. I mean, I think they get involved with Yamamoto. We'll see how crazy that thing gets. Then if I was to put it in order, it'd probably be Montgomery, Nola in that order, and then Snell. Jared, you mentioned something. You don't know if he wants to play here, whether you know something or not. I don't know. Personally, I don't want to shell top dollar for a guy that only pitches 180 innings on a free agent year. You know what I mean? I mean, for the most part, he's 130 innings. He's fantastic, but based on what I saw, I want Nola and I want Montgomery's 32 starts, and I want their 180 innings, and I want to throw it out there, and I want to just see how it eats. And then after that, realistically, after hopefully getting one of those top 3 guys, then I think you're dialing it back. People, I'll go get both. Go get Ohtani and Yamamoto and Snell. You're like, get the fuck. It ain't happening. Like, you give me like Nola, and then okay, now you go out and let's get creative. I don't know, like, does Sonny Gray just melt down in big markets? I have no idea. Can we fix Giolito? You're supposed to be the freaking pitching whisperer. I don't know. Do we have a Tampa Bay sort of magic sauce right now that we can do that? That's the type of stuff I think they dive into.
Yeah. You did you just in no particular order do that, or do you have Montgomery above Nola?
I love Montgomery. I'm not going to hold it back.
Even without the swing and miss?
Well, he didn't have that in that last game. It might have something to do with the fact that I saw his game down in Texas, and I think we swung at like 17. We were like 17 swing and misses on like 20 curveball swings. Like, it was. Yeah,
we suck.
Yeah, but I'll say this about Montgomery is that he. I never liked it. It was funny because maybe it's just a bias. I don't know. I didn't like him when he was in New York, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
And I was just.
They didn't even like him that much. Let's be real.
Yeah, they didn't, which was the stupidest trade in the world. And I even felt that way when they did that for Bader. But in the end, it's like he's one of those guys that doesn't blow you away, right? Glasnow, all these other guys. But when you look down and you put together like basically 4 straight years of a sub-4 ERA and giving you starts and innings. Like, and it's not like this is a guy that as he gets older, it won't play anymore. You know what I mean? He's 92, 93, can run it up to 94, 95 when he feels good. But the curveball, the changeup, the shit kind of ages well too, right? So we saw this year, and it's like, that's why Nola and Montgomery are there, because it's just innings. It's just innings. It just starts. There's no guarantees. I get it. They can all blow out. But this is what you need. And it changes everything. Hey, these people are like, oh, if you got one start at the deadline, it wouldn't have changed anything. That's bullshit. It wouldn't have changed your defense, and that still would have killed you. But you give me like Bayo, and if you had one other fucking guy that could go 6, what it does to your bullpen and allows you how to use these other guys, it would have changed a lot. Like I said, he still would have booted some shit, but because you couldn't play defense. But it does change a lot when you throw. Both these teams try to win a World Series with 2 starters. 2. That's all they had.
Yeah.
Both these teams, they just had 2 fucking startars, and one of them team won the World Series with 2 starters. So.
Well, they pulled fucking Brandon Pfaadt out of their ass. That dude was fucking terrible, and then he just decided to be a baller in the playoffs.
Right.
What was I just gonna fucking ask you? What the fuck was I just gonna ask you? Well,
we're talking Montgomery and Nola.
Yeah. Well, like, what would you put? Because when you talk about trading for a starting pitcher, that's where I was going to go. Trading for a starting pitcher. We mentioned Juan Soto earlier. I don't think the likelihood is very high at all. But when you have these assets, if there's not a deal out there, because part of the conversation about trading for a frontline starter, maybe that guy's not out there. Like, I love Biebs, but I think he's got 1 year left, and like there's. Like the trends do not look good. Like the strikeouts per 9 are going down. The velo is down. The swing and miss is down. Glasnow, they're not trading within the division. They're too smart to do
free
that.
Agent after next year.
Yeah, and then you also have the Mariners. Like, those are interesting names, but they may look at it as, we still want to give it a go one more time. So if you do have these tradable assets where guys are blocked at the big league level, it's not about like, oh, we're giving up on this guy or that guy. Is it worth it to enter the Juan Soto sweepstakes just because it's not making up for the Mookie Betts trade, but it's a nice little consolation if you're bringing in a generational talent like him? I know you need starting pitching, but it's not like acquiring Juan Soto makes you a worse team. Does that intrigue you at all?
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer, and he's really fucking good. So, yeah, it does. And it's like, is he a perfect fit? I wish he was right-handed, but it doesn't really matter. Like, it's like, because he's just really, really good, but here's my concern. I remember having a conversation with someone in the organization, and the question they asked me was, how many $30 million players can you have on your team? And it kind of made me think about it. I'm like, 2? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Is it black and white? You know what I mean? Is it sort of like, can you only have 2? And that's not like, because I'm saying there's like a $22 million player in there somewhere, right? A $24 million player in there somewhere. But we're talking like, how many $30 to $35 million players? You mentioned it. The Padres had a bunch, and they're taking out loans for $50 million, and you're in a better financial situation than that. But that would be like, that's kind of like my concern, right? Because I always thought like Tatis was another one, that's the guy that out of all of them, they should hold on to, in my opinion. It's a contract under control, but is he a better fit than Soto? Well, for me, I think he kind of is. I know what his deal is. I know how much he makes. I know he can play a Gold Glove right field, and I can hit him third for the next 9 years between Devers and Cousins. But Soto, I think you have to be involved. I mean, you're talking about a Hall of Fame talent. You absolutely do, and then you see what the hell they want in return. Go from there.
It's going to be an interesting sweepstakes. Like, I'm at this point now, especially with the funding, Evan Drellick, our boy Evan Drellick. Did I tell you that I ran into Evan Drellick at the All-Star game, Lou?
Your boy, no.
Oh, I did tell you that?
You guys go have a drink? You guys go hang out?
I don't know what I would call it that. We had a very lengthy conversation. You know what? Bygones became bygones that day.
All right. I like Evan a lot. He's a good guy.
I like Evan too. Just don't accuse my team of cheating, and I won't have to character assassinate you. Like, I was like, just like
I can see him already. I can see Evan already. You tell me if I'm wrong. If you brought up the whole accusing my team of cheating, he probably turned his head and was like, Jared, come on. What do you think?
You
really believe they weren't doing something? Really?
He was furious to see me. We haven't spoken until I assassinated that man's character for a good 6 months. But we talked it out. It was probably, you know what? It was when it was during the home run derby. Julio Rodriguez broke the record for most home runs in like a single round. And I had no idea because I was fighting with Evan Drellick the whole time.
Nice. Well, that's good memory. Good memory from the All-Star game with good old Evan.
Let's say. I mean, it was it was a memory that I'll never forget. Yeah. Yep. Like, for that isn't it crazy now that like so much time has passed that people probably don't even know that me, you, and Evan Drellick had a TV show together.
I know. It's years ago. That baseball show. I remember when I first started doing it in NBC Sports Boston, whatever, Comcast at the time. It was like 3 hours Saturday morning. We were taking phone calls. 3 hours. Yeah. The shit got down to about fucking 30 minutes, and I knew it was dead. It was like, I didn't go anywhere after this.
Yeah.
It was just me and Drellick. We all had that going for an hour, taking calls. It was great. And they're like, we're going to sort of, I don't know, we're going to shorten it up a little bit. No calls. I'm like, all right, let's have some fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah, those were the days. Those were the pre-New York days when I still had a twinkle in my eye. Anyway, so Evan Drellick had that report about the funding that the San Diego Padres needed to get $50 million to cover payroll. So they're hurting right now, but that's not to say that they won't be hurting to find a trade partner. I think that it's going to be a very interesting market. It would just kill me if he ended up going to the Yankees. Normally, I don't give a fuck. Like when Garrett Cole went to the Yankees, I was like, good. He's a douchebag and he deserves to be on a douchebag team. If Juan Soto, like, don't make cool players not cool. Like, the only player in my memory that was able to go to the Yankees and still kind of be cool, like the pinstripes didn't ruin the cool factor, was Gary Sheffield. That's the only guy that I can recall.
Yeah, I think Soto going there would be a problem. Because he's just a great player, man. And it's like just the thought of having like Soto and Judge, but they got
to your point. How many $30 million guys can you have? Like, they're trapped with that Stanton contract. They've got fucking Judge. They've got Cole. Like, how many $30 million players can you have? We'll find out if the Yankees trade for him. They're like, actually, this was a 1 year rental, I guess.
Yeah, And it's true too, because I think Juan Soto obviously makes them better, but I don't think it makes them like a team you worry about. Like I watched that team this year, and I'm like, God, people. What do you think the Yankees can do with the deadline? I'm like, there's nothing they can do. They can't do enough. They can't go out and sign. They can't go out and trade for 5 position players. Like they really can't. Like that team is just like, where's it headed? Look at the outfield. Where's it? The organization. I know it deep down inside, like there's some concerns organizationally. The hitting coach was fired, right? But everybody in the minors is like his guy, and they're teaching the same stuff. And it's like,
I hope they trade for Rendon.
The whole direction of the franchise. I heard they took all the tees out of the minor league. Nobody can hit with tees anymore because the ball's never sitting still. And we got to always, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, don't you ever have to groove your swing? Like, no, just launch, see how far you can hit it. Like, they got some problems. So Soto will help them. But still, that roster, you look around and you're like, it's just light. It's just so light. Like, and they're in a market where there really aren't any bats available, right? The Red Sox have some bats. They need starting pitching where there is more starting pitching available, right? So, but I still don't want Soto in New York because he's a freaking nightmare. He and Judge, that'd be awful.
That would not be a good time.
No, not at all.
What are you? Because I think you mentioned Roman Anthony, you mentioned Marcelo Meyer. Those are your own personal untouchables.
Yeah.
Do you think the Red Sox should have any untouchables?
Well, I think Kyle Teal's another one, right? Like I think that like your catching future is like Wong is a backup, and Kyle Teal's your starter. But I would say none of them are untouchable. Like none of them. Like I've seen Meyer. I think he's real. I remember the first year, like spring training, they made that Mookie trade. I went down and watched Jeter Downs, and I followed him around because that's what I do. I go down to spring training, and I don't need to watch Devers take fucking BP, right, or Bogarts or JD. Why? So I just go to the guys I've never seen before, and I followed him taking grounders. I followed him in the cage. I followed him out in the field, watching him hit. And after like 2 days, I went to somebody, and I'm like, what am I missing? I'm like, what am I missing? Like, who like, what does he do? Like, you know what I mean? I did the same thing with Meyer, and I'm like, yeah. Like, it's just a very mature game. Like, defensively, there's an internal clock to him. There's this, composure that he plays with. Offensively, the swing is just, like, on time. But I'll say this about him. You got to stay healthy. And this is the whole thing. Like, not every big prospect who doesn't make it for the same reasons. You know what I mean? Some guys get up to AAA and realize they can't lay off a breaking ball, or some guys can't switch up to the fastball. Or something, you start seeing the warts, And then there's other guys that just have injuries and they can't stay healthy and they don't make it, right? So he's a guy that, I understand the number one prospect and everything, but, you got to stay healthy in the minors. Like these kids that come up from like A-ball, AA, AAA to the big leagues, whatever, they're healthy the whole time. They don't miss a month because of a groin injury, right, or a shoulder injury. And then that sets him back, and then he's got to go back to that level again. So I don't think anyone's untouchable, to be perfectly honest with you. And in a perfect world, you get a fantastic talent, and that player you trade actually turns into a good player too. Like, the fuck? All right, we both win.
Is that a reason to trade him because you see the red flag and like this could be an injury-prone player, or is that a reason to make him more of an untouchable? Because it's like, well, this team over here might see a red flag, and now our guy doesn't have as much juice on the trade market. So
if Seattle came to me and said, "We'll give you Kirby or Gilbert, we want Meyer back," what do you do?
Sounds like you're pulling the trigger on that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I am, and I like the player. Let's see if Mikey Romero's good, right? And hey, I got an idea. Like this is the whole thing. Like Roman Anthony was drafted in the second round, 2022. He's like one of the best prospects in all of baseball. Like he climbed out of nowhere. They drafted him 2 years ago. Fucking do it again. You know what I mean? Like you get another draft. You get another draft the following year. Like shit, every year you get to draft new guys. Like your second and third best prospects came out of the draft the last 2 years in Teal and Anthony. Like you just keep getting to do it. And oh, by the way, you also get to go down to the Dominican and you get to sign international free agents. You know what I mean? So now you got a kid in Cespedes down there. You got a kid, Miguel Blaze. Like these guys might be some of your best prospects as well with healthy seasons in another year from now. So every single year, this shit can turn over, So if I got an opportunity to get like a legit starting pitcher for anybody in the minors, yeah, I do it. Will I get burned once in a while? Sure. Yeah. I don't know if the guy turns into like Ronald Acuna, but if he turns into Alex Verdugo, am I really getting burned? A good big leaguer for like a guy that can start for me like every day? No. So yeah, that's just, I move prospects. That's just the way it is. More are coming.
You've got that David Dombrowski ice in your veins.
Yeah. I mean, don't you have to?
Yes. In this market, yes. Like, I mean, I kind of, you need a good farm system. You need a good ecosystem to nourish your major league roster.
Oh, by the way, real quick, you mentioned Dave. I got to get this off my chest.
Yeah.
Again, this guy was freaking trashed on the way out of Boston. Shredded. Buried this organization, will never recover, traded every single player, gave out all this stupid money to all of these players, like freaking shredded. They couldn't wait. This is what Dave does. He ruined Detroit. He ruined Florida. He ruined us. Suck. And now all of a sudden it's like shredding the organization for letting the guy go. The same exact fucking people. Shredding the organization because how great Dave Dombrowski is. The same people. And they're not just media, fans. When he left, I remember like a year into it, like he was gone. I'm like, you know what? I think we're overreacting. Like, really, I mean, who did he really trade away? Like, I think when we look back, and no, yeah, he's an asshole. He destroyed us. We have no system. We have no future. We have no nothing. Now everybody's so pissed off that he's gone. And in Philly, it's like, dude, you're so full of shit. Yeah. You couldn't wait to get his ass out of here. And everybody knows it.
My theory is that he probably, and this is not really inside information, this is just a legit theory, is that he was probably told you need to trade Mookie Betts, and he said, find someone else to do that. Like, I'm not going to be the guy that trades Mookie Betts. That would make way more sense than the Red Sox looking at what he did and being like, this guy's fucking fired. Less than a year after winning a World Series title, the winningest team in franchise history. The abruptness, I was there that night at Fenway. It was a Friday night, I want to say, at Fenway. And I had gotten tipped off about it. Like, they just like went into his office like during the game and fired the dude in the middle of the fucking game. Like, it wasn't like the next morning, like they had like a meeting at the office. It was fucking at night during the game, fired this dude. And it's just like, all right, did that to me gives off the vibes of like heated conversation that ended in a go fuck yourself, see you later. Like, find someone else. And wouldn't it make sense if that were the reason why?
I don't know if it was over Mookie. I think it was about like just what they viewed as carelessly throwing money around to kind of keep the band together.
But isn't that on John then? Because to your point earlier, which I entirely agree with, you can't just pay a dude $32 million a year without John Henry being like, God bless it. Here you go. Like, he's got to sign off on that shit.
But if you want to give like Kimbrel a 5-year deal when we all know we fucking was melting down.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. And then it turns into, well, I'm going to. No, you're not. And then, okay, I'm going to give it to Evaldi. Then it's like, let's give Sale 32. We ain't doing that either. I think we should. Like, to me, it's like there was a lot of just throwing money around that they were like, I don't think that's very smart. Well, I'm doing it anyways. Don't meddle in my business. I run baseball. Well, I'm still the fucking owner. I still run the team. I think there was some serious butting heads with him wanting to keep the band together, which kind of concerns me and makes me feel like Nola's going nowhere because that's how Dave Dombrowski works. Think about it. We're talking about Dave. They get stars and scrubs, right? Like, how many stars can I have? I don't give a shit about the rest because the stars show up in the playoffs. You think he's going to let Nola go? That's my biggest concern, actually. You think Montgomery enjoyed his experience in Texas?
Oh, my God. Lifetime memories now.
Do you think he's leaving?
With the money they've spent the last couple off seasons, it's hard to believe that.
And I think Dombrowski's going to let Nola leave? Like
JT Realmuto a year ago.
Yeah.
It's like the same conversation. And I think when you start talking Dombrowski, and this is where the overlap with Bloom is, it's like, all right, John Henry, you were willing to kind of write that check and say, hey, you want to pay Chris Sale even though you don't have to right now? Well, we'll give you the go. Well, then you kind of flip your philosophy, call it 4 months later, right? And then with Bloom, well, you let Bloom where he really doesn't go one way or the other. You're not going over the luxury tax. Well, then you're kind of upset that they're treating this year the way it is. It's like staying on that same line of philosophy. But I think with Dombrowski, the other thing that doesn't get included here, and it now becomes an even realer thing with Breslow, with why people were turning down this job, apparently, Dombrowski closed himself out. He said, all those voices you have here, all these people that have been here, I'm taking a step back. I'm going to shut the doors. I got Tony La Russa and I got Frank Wren. I don't want to hear anything else.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to trust my gut and go my way. Well, now we hear, when Bloom was here, there was some issue that there were too many cooks in the kitchen. Even after Bloom's fired, you're keeping all these guys here. They're keeping that in place. That's the constant worry that remains, right? Are there too many people all talking? Is it just, it needs to be Craig Breslow and another trusted guy, and they can kind of go down that route? Because either Dombrowski was early to something, Bloom was too far in the other direction where he had all these people talking. How do you find the medium? You're still trying to find that middle ground.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, everybody kept asking me, do you think like Alex Cora being here is one of the reasons why everyone's turning it down? And I'm like, well, Jared's manager, I think is well respected. You know what I mean? Like, I would say, like, I don't think it's the manager. I think it's the entire front office is staying together. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I think. And I think they're really good at what they do. But I mean, if you're brought in to run the baseball operations, like, listen, you have total control. It's your operation. You run baseball. It's, whatever, scouting, trades, signing, everything is good. But we already hired all your assistants. It's like, really? Like, I think all these people that like kind of refused to interview, I don't think there was all like one reason. I think all these people that made a big deal out of like, look how fucking awful the Red Sox are. Nobody wants the job. I do think there were personal reasons. I still hear people all the time talking about how Mike Hazen turned it down and everything else. I'm like, then you don't know Mike Hazen's story at all. Like I heard John Daniels, why he did. He got burnt out at his old job, so some of these guys, then there's others like Sam Fold, like a 5-minute conversation with Dombrowski. He ain't taking it, right? Like, so there's really only a couple of guys. Was it Click? I think it was his first hire. Didn't Chaim Bloom hire him first job in baseball?
From baseball perspectives, he wrote his recommendation letter.
Yeah.
He's not going to take. So everybody took it for different reasons. You know what I mean? Maybe there was somebody that was like, I don't like the front office situation or the security of the job, whatever. Everyone had different roles in it. I would be really surprised if Alex Cora was a reason for any of them.
Lou. When it comes to Cora and everything, and I think this is something that's slid under the rug. We get the comment from Breslow today, Cora will be our manager in 2024, obviously. Do you believe that we're going to get in, call it 2 weeks, maybe it's a month, we hear Alex Cora signed a 3-year extension, a 4-year extension. We have the new head of baseball ops. Cora is going to be our manager. Going into this new era, we're not going to have a guy being a lame duck. Like, this is what we see moving forward. And clearly, I think the Red Sox value Cora at some point chasing that front office dream. Maybe it's not here at this point with Breslow, but or in some capacity where he learns when he's done managing. Do you think it's only a matter of time before we see that? Or is there a chance he actually goes into this year without an extension?
No, I don't think you can go into a lame dunk. I just don't. I think it's impossible. I just don't think you can do that. So I think the extension is coming. This is not a situation where like Bill Belichick, you know what I mean? Like, will they announce an extension, because apparently it was his last year. And it's just like, well, nobody ever knows Bill Belichick's contract extension, right? Or what his contract situation is. So nobody even knew it was a lame duck year. That was just a PR thing. I don't know what the fuck that was. But when it comes to Cora, but baseball, everything's out there. So you can't have a manager going in to his last year of his deal. I mean, you just can't. To me, it's like you move on from him. You know what I mean? At that point, you just, this offseason, say, we're going to find somebody else. We'll pay you your last year of the deal and we'll move on. We're not ready to commit you for another 2 or 3 or 4 years. So, yeah, I expect an extension to be here soon.
This episode of the Name Redacted podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This time of the year can be a lot, and it's natural to feel some sadness or anxiety about it. But adding something new and positive to your life can counteract some of those feelings. Therapy can be a bright spot amid all of the stress and change, something to look forward to make you feel grounded, and to give you the tools to manage everything going on. I've benefited from therapy in the past. I'm sure I will benefit from it again in the future. The biggest misconception about therapy is that it's just for people who've experienced major trauma. That's just not true. If you have things in your day-to-day life that are stressing you out, or you just need to get something off your chest, BetterHelp is there for you. Come to think of it, I'm probably going to sign up for a BetterHelp subscription this offseason just so I can get everything off my chest about Tyler, because that guy is ruining my life and the lives of thousands of others. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Jared today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/Jared.
If you were to poll 50 Major League Baseball executives, give me your top 5 managers in baseball. How many of those top 5 lists does Alex Cora appear on?
I think he's probably that 4 or 5 on a lot of those lists. Yeah, I
think he's on at least. I think he's at least 45 of those lists.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that you're, to me, the best managers in the game. Obviously Boch is, Tito. I mean, these guys are there. People are going to respect Dusty Baker. You know what I mean?
2 retired guys.
Yeah, and I think Kevin Cash gets a ton of respect. And then I think Cora is going to be in there, right? And someone might say throw in a Bob Melvin. They might throw in a Craig Counsell.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but I think Cora is going to be on a shitload of those things, which is why I just don't think that. I just think teams they look at these last place finishes and they're like, "Oh, the fuck!" Like look at the rotation, look at the bullpen, or look at the team. You know what I mean? The players. Look at the players. And I still say, for me, Alex. The reason why I didn't think Texas would win it. It was funny because you kind of caught yourself because I'm like, I saw the Rangers and I'm like, their bullpen's atrocious. It has been all year long. But we saw what Cora does in the postseason to me. And I think he just outmanages guys. Or he finds a way to make that bullpen work with a bad bullpen. They've won World Series with bad bullpens. They did in 18. It was kind of like, well, I don't know if you got the pen for it. Boch did the same thing to me. And it's like, you got a great manager who knows how to win in the postseason. That matters. And he manages for the postseason. All these people that want him to run out 2 or 3 relievers every freaking night in April and May. And it's like, awesome. But here's the thing. We're trying to play in October. And if I win games in April and May, doing what you want me to do and run these guys, pitch them 3 out of every 4 freaking nights, the same freaking people, even if we're down a run, they're done for the year. And then we can't win in October. If we get there, we want to be in a position to win it all, which is what really should matter. And I think that's kind of the philosophy that he has. He's a guy that can win in October. We know it. We've seen it. They shouldn't have done anything in 2021. They were fantastic.
Based on what the roster is right now, and I guess not so much where the areas of needs are, but the areas of availability to add, could this be a 1-year fix? From where they were this year, from what their flaws were this year, can they still be a playoff team next year?
Okay, a playoff team, yes. I think you can be a playoff team. And we all know, I guess, once you get in, anything can happen. We've already seen it. All this other stuff. It's turning kind of a little jokey, I think. Maybe they got to fix this playoff format. We can get into another time. But I still think it's a 2-year kind of window to where at 2025, you're like, okay. I still feel like John Henry, if you've been paying attention, people always call him cheap. Now, he'll spend when you're close. He'll spend when it's the right time. You know what I mean? That 17, 18, Dave Dombrowski, everything sort of came together at the right time. In came, Bogarts, obviously, 13, whatever, but he started solidifying himself. And then it's Mookie and Devers and Jackie and Benintendi. You kind of saw that thing happening, right? Erod in the mix as well. And it's now it's time. We're ready. We're starting to mature a little bit as a roster. And they went nuts, right? In 18 and kind of just spent. 17, 18, all those trades, Price, Sale, Kimbrel, all those guys. I feel like they're a year away from that still. I still think they can build to be a playoff. That's why I feel like they're going to get one starter and then try to find that diamond in the rough guy. Because next year, we mentioned it before, next year's free agent class is pretty freaking good too. Burns, Glasnow. There's a lot of guys in that one. You give me one stud this year, maybe one next year, and you rock and roll in 2025 to be real preseason contenders. but I still think you have the ability to be a playoff team next year. But you better find a way to improve that defense, because if you can spend all the money you want and start pitching, it'll be a waste of money if you don't fix it.
What are you hearing on Verdugo?
I think he's gone. You know, I did a radio show interview. I think it was like Fourier was asking me, like, you know, if Heim is gone now, do you think it's a better chance that Verdugo stays? And I'm like, I don't think the guy leaving is the one that has the problem with Verdugo, right? Like, the guy that left ain't the problem. The one that wants him out, you know. And I'm just, you know, listen, the guy's been suspended a couple of times, or at least benched a couple of times, whatever you want to call it, from core. And I just think there's a back and forth with these two guys. I think there's an inconsistency with him, you know, that's frustrating, I think, at a level. I think, so I think you try to move him.
Does he still have value?
Well, that's the question. You know, that's the thing. And like, I don't think it's 100% he's gone, because I still look at it and say, like, again, he's not a guy, he's not in that class where you say either extend him or you got to trade him. You know, no, you let him play a year and you let him walk. You know, what are we doing? He's not that caliber of a player. He is a Gold Glove right fielder. Should win the Gold Glove. You need to have better defense. You can get rid of your only Gold Glover. You know what I mean? So, and maybe, you know, you just sort of live with it. You just sit there in April, say, you know what, he's going to hit 265. He's going to play a great defense in right. He's going to hit 13 home runs. He's going to drive in, 7. That's just who he is, whether it's a hot start, slow start, whatever. So you can, I think, you know, and then maybe at the deadline. Maybe at the deadline you sit there and say, you know what, Rafaela has now got 3 months of minor league at-bats. We like the improvement. Even if you're in it, you can sit there and move Verdugo and then bring Rafaela up. So I think you try to, but I'm not giving him away. And, you know, it wouldn't shock me if he's on the roster in April, because you just don't give a player like that away. And maybe you can move him later.
That's why I think the likelihood of a Verdugo deal is definitely not a 1-for-1 type deal.
No.
Like, yeah, I don't think he's headlining. I think he's part of he's the James Loney of a package where it's like Verdugo is the big league piece. There might be some minor league pieces in there as well. Like, I think if he goes, there's going to be bodies in that deal for sure.
The one thing that does intrigue me is, like, obviously you get 3 really good months from him. Like, to me, he was an all-star. Like, he played 3 months of fantastic baseball, gave you great at-bat after great at-bat, gave you Gold Glove outfield play, all of it. Should have been on that all-star team. I think when it was announced he wasn't on the all-star team is when everything went to hell. You know, I think he was pissed off and couldn't let it go. Does the last year...
What a fucking awful reason to tank your own season.
Well, I'm not saying that was.
I'm not saying it either, but, like, you're not wrong. Like, that was a tipping point.
Yeah. But what is he like in a free agent year? Let's face it, you know, dude's looking for the bag. You know what I mean? And he's like, all right, so do I have it in me to give 5.5 months of focus instead of just 3? You know, do I have that in me? Because if I do, you know, there is like a Nimmo deal out there for me. You know, there is a 5-year, $100 million. Because if not, I'm staring at, like, you know, 3 and freaking whatever. Still good money, don't get me wrong, right? But it's not going to be $20 million a year, which if he could give you 6 months, he's capable of that type of player.
He is. I mean, like, the benchmark for me was always the Benny deal. Like, people were saying that in May and June. Like, oh, would you give him the Benintendi deal? And even then, for me, I was like,
What was that, 575?
Yeah.
You know, it's the highest deal that Chicago Cubs ever, the White Sox ever gave out.
Yeah, before that, it was fucking Yasmani Grandal.
Imagine that. Like, I remember doing the game, and that was on, like, the little notes. And I just looked at Will. I'm like, is this true? They're like, yeah. I'm like, this is the biggest deal the White Sox have ever given out? Ever. 575 to Bennett. This is it?
They skate on being, like, one of the cheapest organizations in the sport.
Shocked.
Yeah, everyone talks about the A's and the Royals, like all these teams, and it's like, actually,
unbelievable.
Very surprised to know that Andrew Benintendi is the king of the Money Mountain in the south side of Chicago.
That's so embarrassing. I was like, did I have a really good pitcher? Didn't they go for it a few years ago? I'm like, Jesus, nothing? Awful.
No.
Lou, I think the one negative thing throughout the presser today, and it's nothing involving Breslow, but the John Henry situation of him walking in 20 minutes into the presser, right?
Yeah,
11:20. I think everyone.
He's 90, dude. Are you old people shaming right now?
Well,
it's just
heard he
very
wasn't
interesting.
there,
I've
then I
never
heard he
seen
was
something
late,
like that.
And I heard maybe he was there the whole time, just in the back. So I don't know. So he's 20 minutes late.
Yeah, so Cotillo put it out, immediately. There were people like saying Cora wasn't there initially, and he was just sitting with the front office, hanging out in the crowd. But yeah, John Henry at 11:20 walks in. Apparently, a reporter waves to him. He says nothing. Then after everything, he's joshing it up with Breslow's family. Duke Castiglione, bringing him back to the forefront, goes up and says, "Hey, can we talk for a few minutes?"
Yeah.
He stares at him and then just walks away. That's exactly how it was written.
Deserved.
Very
Team
interesting
Henry. Team
situation.
Henry on that one. That's
I would
my
say this
owner.
about John, and I actually think they have it all wrong. I think they're making a mistake because, let's face it, the reason why they don't put John in front of the microphone, he's uncomfortable, but he speaks his mind.
He does.
Too truthful.
He's truthful, and they kind of feel like he gets himself in trouble.
Were you at Winter Weekend, Lou?
Yeah.
They edited out 90% of the responses that he gave on that stage.
And this is the thing. It's so they're hiding from the truth, right? He comes out and he's like, we're going to get underneath the CBT. And everyone's panicking, and then meanwhile, it's are you or aren't you? You only just said you were. And they're no, we're not. But then they act and their actions show that they are. So it's just here's the thing. Give me my owner. Okay. Put him up there. Have him speak the truth. If it gets a little bit uncomfortable, I think people in the market will sit there and say, awesome. He's actually telling the truth. I love my wacky owner. He can't hold back. He says whatever's on his mind. It makes people uncomfortable, but at least he's telling me the damn truth. And, I think they feel like that gets him in trouble. But I actually think that people would embrace it. Because it's stop bullshitting me, right? Stop trying to pretend you're not trying to get under when we all know you are. And if you went up there and just, I don't know. I feel like they feel like his honesty gets him in trouble, or I feel like that's kind of what's needed, and I think he should talk some more, and he should be fine with saying whatever the hell he's on his mind. He's earned that right.
Honesty is great in these situations, but also there were some things that he said during the Winter Weekend interview that I don't know if they were tone deaf or it just wasn't what the audience wanted to hear.
How about looking at his watch?
He was up there saying, baseball players are expensive. It's well, yeah dude. Yeah. You own a Major League Baseball franchise. You own the Boston Red Sox. Yeah. Baseball players. I mean, you can't they don't pay hourly wages for that shit. They're going to make a lot of money. No doubt. I
just think the honesty will be welcomed. I really do.
Yeah. And it was not, if you were there live and you got to actually hear what he said, he said, he was plenty honest. And I think that, even whether it was behind closed doors or it was publicly, Chaim Bloom wanted people to know that it was his belief that John Henry still very much cares about the Boston Red Sox and cares about winning. And I feel like that was also a message that even if John Henry's name wasn't the one that was cited, it was kind of it was more like ownership, ownership cares, ownership wants the team to win, ownership is going to be supportive of our endeavors to build the roster, things like that. Which kind of just goes back to the tweet that I had after the press conference was, it's nice to hear those things, but until I see them, I don't fucking care. Yeah. It was nice to have the Rafael Devers extension, but he was already on the team. The last big contract handed out was fucking David Price. The last big trade was Chris Sale. It's been a while since we've seen the Red Sox go, boom, fuck you. Now what? Mm-hmm. It's been a long time. And I've kind of, when Will was on, I said, I try to check myself here and there because, if you're a fan of another team in a smaller market that never does things like this, you don't want to come off as the fan base that's greedy, or you just have lost sight of how fortunate you are, which I haven't done. I understand. I have seen 4 World Series titles. Very fortunate for that. Very appreciative for that. But when you set a certain precedent and then you take it away, then like, yeah, like it's not like we're not children. Like you didn't like spoil us when we were kids and then give us coal on Christmas because of bad behavior. Like you treated us a certain way for a long time. And then you kind of like took away that treatment for a little while. And we're just sitting here being like, what the fuck? Like, what do we do to deserve you taking away all the nice, shiny toys? Like it used to be that way.
Yeah, see, I don't think, I know this is like, an easy narrative, and it's just easy for people who don't want to watch baseball or talk baseball at all, that like John Henry's cheap, right? I think it's just like the stupidest fucking thing anybody ever says, because it's like, I feel like he's a businessman. Like people are like, this is what he wants. And it's like, okay, John Henry's a billionaire. You guys admit that he loves making money, correct? So do you think he gets more revenue for this team when like 30,000 are there instead of 38? Do you think he gets more revenue when this team's back-to-back last place, so the ad rates are lower and the Nesson ratings are lower? Like, he likes making money, and that's not making money. And people say, "Oh, the bottom line is this." That no. He like, to me, I still think he wants to win. Now, whether it's financially driven or if he just enjoys the team, maybe he doesn't enjoy it as much. He's got other things going on. I get it, but I think that John Henry, after the Dombrowski thing, looked at the money and said, "It's getting out of control. We got to win differently." Okay, and tried the Hein Bloom thing. Contrary to popular belief, I think when he hires somebody, he allows them to do it his way. He allowed Hein Bloom to do it his way. And you can't cover everything in a freaking interview. You don't know what you're going to get in an employee until he's actually in the fire. And he's fitting in, the bullets are flying, and he's freaking hanging out, and he's on the calls and everything else, and he just fails at his job. And you're like, you know what? I thought you could do it, but you can't. You're gone. And then I got to bring in another guy. And I think he looks at the financial aspect of baseball like it's out of control. So how can I win differently? But I think he just realized that you can't win that way, the way you just did it. So now we do have to blend both of them in. We got to spend a little bit. So I think it's a slow process. I still think it's about sustainability. I don't think they just turn in, they say, okay, we're going to sign Nola, Yamamoto, and Ohtani and say, fuck it, let's go try to win it. Spend $100 million on 3 players for 1 year. Like, I don't see it happening. Like, so, but I do think that when he feels like his team is ready to win, and I think you put a good team this year that's close, I think he'll go way over. He's already shown he'll go way over the CBT. If he thinks his team is close and has a chance to win, he'll do it. He'll do it again. He's not cheap. Cheap? Does anybody remember what baseball was like before this freaking guy bought the team?
No, that's the thing. The vocal majority on Twitter, they don't know. They had no
idea what sports were before the Patriots showed up in this town in 2001.
I wasn't even alive
whatsoever. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, and I get it. This is all you know. But it's like cheap. Okay. Go back to some Red Sox years. You know what I mean? Like when they were just like, what are we doing? You can't win with this team. Or spend money on softball players. Like it's like, it's ridiculous.
The big acquisition was Cliff Floyd and Dante Bichette.
Yeah, we needed started to go with
Cliffy.
We needed started to go with Pedro. Let's go get Saberhagen and Mark Portugal. Who, I love them both, but it just wasn't gonna. You know what I mean? Like Sabes was on his last leg, right? Like it was. Whatever.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to get off your chest, Lou? I feel like this is therapy for you.
Yeah, it is actually. It's good therapy for me. I would say I wish I had as many kind things to say about Will Fleming as he did about me, which I really don't. Like, I don't really sure. I don't think he's good at his job, and I'm absolutely miserable. So, no, it's, I listened to you guys last time. It's fun. He's a good man, and I hope the Red Sox smarten up and bring this guy back here for many, many years.
I agree.
Lou, I don't mean to, slobber all over your knob here, but when you hear Red Sox fans, and let's be real, I think a lot of people have been looking for those two voices, in the booth for TV, obviously doing radio as well. But I think TV, you really started to branch that audience this year. And everyone was like, man, I'd do anything for Lou to do 162, to be in there every night so we can have something that at least resembles, or we can dream on being like Orsillo and Remy one day. Mm-hmm. Do you think you'll ever, try that kind of workload or go down that path? I know you have a son who's playing baseball and that's very important to you, but is that something that could happen down the line?
Yeah, you know, this year I think I did, I don't know, I think it was like 90, right around 90 combined. I think, you know, I could do like 110. You know, I feel like that's like my next step type of thing, just to sort of see where that goes. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's what I want to do. Kind of working out now. I don't know where it'll be. I don't know, being one or the other or a little bit of both. Again, I have no idea. So, but it's what I want to do. You know what I mean? Like I just sort of living that life. Like, man, I would, this year was like, I wasn't sure and I did it. And I'm like, yeah, this is where it needs to be. I would do a game and like that I would, after the game, I get back to the hotel and I'd be lying in my bed like, God, I get to do that again. You know what I mean? Like, that's how it was. And I would just get to the field and it was just being around it and traveling again and all that shit, you know? And as much as I did travel, it wasn't too much. It wasn't like at all. Like my wife, everything was great, you know? And so I missed like some games from my son, but at this level, like it's probably good not to have dad in the freaking dugout. You know what I mean? Like grow up, you know, and just sort of be yourself and not have me around there to always look to help you and stuff. So it was like, it was really good experience for me that hopefully will grow next year. So I don't really know what's going to happen. So we'll see. Hopefully we get some answers soon.
So you haven't had those conversations yet. So we don't know, like we can expect more Loomer in the next.
I don't know. Yeah. I have no idea. I'm just golfing a lot, kind of hanging out, waiting. So I don't know. I think it's always like kind of like a November thing, to be honest with you. So
got it.
It's the first year really going through it. Like for me personally, it was like last day of the season. I was like, all right, what are we doing next year? You know, but that's just, there's a lot of stuff going on, obviously, at the end of the year for this team and Nessa and EI, whatever it may be. So we'll straighten it out here soon enough. Yeah.
They got to get you on for the bulk. Like you got to be the bulk guy. Like I love all the other guys that are coming in. Like I think, like I don't know where Euclid lives full time. He's out in like California, but he's also got a place in Cincinnati. Like these guys are traveling in. I know Middlebrooks is coming up from Florida. Millar's coming in from Texas. Like you got to be the bulk guy. Like that's just got to be a thing.
Unless you're Millar and you just chill on your couch.
Yeah. They don't. He's
the
big
best.
time.
He's the best. I love doing those games with him.
Uncle Kevin.
He's fucking right.
How was your first year being on the Clark's Ketchup Series MVP panel?
It was fantastic. But I think we got shut out in September.
Like, I don't think we got, there was no ketchup, not like a single bottle of ketchup.
Like Will and I, we were just like getting into a groove, right? Like we were just like, all right, let's go. You know, it's like, you know, game 3, whatever it is. Who do you think's the MVP? Let's go over it between innings. We talk about it. I'm like, you got the beer over there in the corner. We got to obviously crack it in the middle of it just to kind of for the effect. So we just like started planning all this shit. Next thing you know, they dropped like a 6 spot on the Red Sox. And like the second, we're like, it's another series lost. Like literally, like when was the last series they won?
It was
like
KC
September?
at the beginning of September, I think.
Was it the beginning? It might have been the end of August. Like it just.
Let me see.
They never won. They didn't win a series. Like just when we were getting to a rhythm, they lost every series the rest of the year.
Yeah.
It
really was disheartening.
Like, should we just, if they lose 2 out of 3, if they don't get swept, should we do one? You know? Because I was missing doing it. It was fun.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun to have everyone involved this year. I think we had a nice balance of TV, radio, and otherwise.
Yeah.
I mean, the fucking manager of the team is voting on the thing.
I still think you should count his for like 1.5.
I agree. Yeah, like it should tip the scales a little bit.
I mean,
like,
the guy does manage the team. It's kind of like involved with maybe behind the scenes of how valuable the guy might have been. Like if he says Turner, it should be like 1.5 in case there's like a tiebreaker. But you know.
I agree. I happen to agree with that. Like I think that we should consider that for next season. I feel like because I did ask Chaim if he wanted to vote, but at the end of the day, it's like if it goes to arbitration, like are we going to have agents referencing Clark's Ketchup Series MVPs to get more money out of the Red Sox? It's like, well, Chaim voted for my client for 7 different Clark's Ketchup Series MVPs. Like that's going to count for something. It's all documented. So I understood. I understood why you couldn't do it. I'm going to ask Breslow though.
You got him.
I don't know him that well. Do you?
I never. I mean, obviously, I never played with him. Kind of more in the media when he was doing it. So I mean, I always knew him. That's like say hi and talk to him, right? Yeah. So All I know is that like I felt like an absolute freaking idiot listening to him speak today. I mean, I graduated from Providence College, but holy shit. I write down all these words he's using.
What other fucking words was he using?
I don't even know the context in which he used them. I'm guessing they were correct, but I was like, what? Jesus.
Yeah, he was dropping some words that Milliken has never used correctly once.
No, I can barely read. Let's be
never
real.
Used
player optimization. We're getting a little bit of everything.
Yeah. He, I don't know. I want my nerds to be smart, but not so smart where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you just said. Like, at the end of the day, let's remember this is still baseball. Like, this is not.
I know. I'm going to talk to him too. Whether it's like, sometimes they're random emails or like with Haim, that's one thing. Haim was always great, right? The email, whatever, phone call. I'd see him at the field. We talk. So I got to see if that like interaction at like behind the cage with Breslow. I'm gonna be like, dude, you keep talking like this, I'm not even gonna know what the Christ you're talking about. Like, honestly, like, dumb it down. Like, what are we doing?
Just be a dude.
Yeah. Talking with Maz today, he did say he was like, it's a different language when he's around baseball players. Apparently, Lou, you'd probably be a better person to ask as a ball player and having some of those conversations. But like, there was that report talking about in Chicago, like the first presentation he ever did. It was so above the head of everyone there. Yeah. They're like, dude, like you need to dumb it down multiple levels, and he was able to do it, right?
Say, you need to do this again because nobody understood what the Christ you're talking about.
Like you're on a different language.
Right? He adjusted like the next day or two, and it made sense. So, adaptability, adaptation. I don't know. Synthesis. I don't know. Right?
Photosynthesis.
Too many words.
He was talking about osmosis up there.
Too many words.
Yeah.
Too many words. The whole pitching thing, it's like, I tell you what, just like get guys out within the strike zone, right? Have the type of shit that gets hitters out within the strike zone. That's what he said. But the words he used to say it,
I
don't even know what the hell he's talking about.
They started talking about chlorophyll.
Just say big words.
Like what?
Is it bi-curious? Which one was it?
Tyler thought that
bi-curious?
He thought that to live vicariously through someone, he thought the word vicarious was bi-curious. And I was like, no, that's
some kind of like gender thing.
That's like when it's like
you're interested in trying things.
If you're like straight and then you like see a dude that you're like attracted to, you're like, I kind of want to kiss that guy. You're like,
it's bi-curious.
You're bi-curious, where it's like I've been straight this whole time, but like I'm a little curious to see if that guy's a good kisser.
Yeah.
He mixed that word up. It's it's a V.
I definitely felt like an idiot listening to him, but it was funny.
I feel like an idiot listening to Tyler all the time. He just fucking.
I just say stupid shit.
Yeah, he just dumbs you down like all day.
Guys, imagine what you can accomplish when you're not distracted by the swampy conditions in your shorts. Dollar Shave Club's ball spray is like deodorant for your balls. It absorbs moisture, reduces chafing, and keeps those rank odors at bay. Not to mention our minty fresh, tingly aroma that lets you know you're fresh, and a precision sprayer that makes application easy at any angle. Get a fresh pair. Visit dollarshaveclub.com to get ball spray today. It's way better than toothpaste.
All right, Loomer. It's a pleasure as always.
Yes.
We're gonna have Will on once a month. We're gonna try like rotate once a month during the off season. Keep it fresh. The invitation is extended to you as well. I know you're always dying to talk about baseball, but I know that you've got a family and a golf career that you.
Well, here's the thing. It was 39 degrees today, and I threw my bags into my basement because it went so poorly. So the golf season is over, and the problem that I have right now is that I don't know if I'll have enough time. Because I have to take 3 or 4 months off. Yeah. So, trying to manage, whether it's leaves. I got a lot of shit going on, right? That I need to figure out for the next 3 or 4 months. But you're also,
you're a local guy. I've never asked you this question before. As a local guy, have you ever dabbled in candlepin bowling?
Of course. What do you mean?
Are you good at it?
No, I'm not good at it.
What do you shoot? What's your average?
Jesus. You know what the problem is, and I saw Justin Turner asking like, what's a good score? And I kind of blanked because I'm like, holy shit. Because I haven't played candlepin in so long, but we used to play all the time when I was a kid because now all the big balls sort of freaking showed up in the city, right? Yeah. Like everywhere you go now, it's like big balls. You don't see the candlepin balls anymore, right? Yeah. So it's like, I don't even know what a good score is anymore. Is it like 85? Like in candlepin? I don't even know.
If you got an 85, then you can't talk to me. Like it's got to be like, if you were someone that's never candlepin bowled before and you showed up and you shot an 85, I'd be like, I would respect that. I'd be like, that's pretty good. But if you're like a regular, it's anywhere from like low 90s to like low 100s.
No. I'm like, I would say like there was definitely like a blind spot of candlepin for me, right? Like up to probably about the age of 12 or 13. Yeah. And the next time I bowled the ball, it was with the big balls. Maybe like, like when I was like 30, 20, 26, 27. So like there was like this little area where I just stopped at the candlepin. Yeah. Remember, was it Candlepins for Cash?
Yeah.
You're way too young for that.
No.
But my dad was actually on Candlepins with Cash. I was on there on the set, hanging out the whole time. I don't know how old that was. It was a long time ago. It's an older.
Wasn't it on like Channel 2 or something like that?
Yeah. It was freaking stupid. I don't even know, but I was a young kid, young little buck hanging out. I don't know what it was. But no, now it's all big balls. Here we go.
Is this no bumpers? You guys play no bumpers?
Tyler, come
on. No, dude, bumper. I'm telling you, you want friggin' smoke? I am the best bumper bowler this world has ever seen. Come see me at Westgate Lanes. I'm going to cook you. I promise you.
That's not bowling. No.
Oh, yes.
It's not bowling. No, it's not.
Deflection. It's hitting the sides. It's angles.
No, it's not. No,
it's like bunting for bowling.
So, Lou, here's the thing.
That's golf with nets all the way to the fairway.
We're trying to do more out of the podcast content this off season. Okay. How would you like to go bowling with us and we'll film it? How would you like
big balls, small balls?
Small balls. Candlepin. You'll do it.
Tell me where. Absolutely.
Oh,
I like it because you get 3, right? You get 3. It's like a cheat, cheat code. You get 3 balls.
You get 3 balls. Yeah. You usually play 3 strings. Usually.
Yeah. No, I'm in. I'll break 100.
You think so?
I don't know. I'll just say it. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, figure it out.
Don't make me get athletic.
Let me know when. Like I said, Jared, Tyler, guys, I have like, the next 3 or 4 months off. So as long as it's not like, interfering with my 1 week of fantasy, camp down in Fort Myers, man, January.
You're cooking now, right, Lou?
I am cooking and pasta everywhere right now.
I'm loving the updates on Twitter. Yeah. Actually chefing it up.
Yeah, some pasta. I had some tonight. Ravioli is good.
There you go. There you go. Good stuff. Right, so be on the lookout for the candlepin bowling with Lou video. That's going to be great. I'm very excited for that. All right, we're actually going to follow up on that. We're going to do that.
We should do like an episode just bowling and baseball, right? Obviously, we talk Red Sox. When after the Red Sox sign like Ohtani and Yamamoto and all these guys, we'll go candlepin bowling. We'll talk about it, and we'll just we'll bust over 100.
Yeah.
Piece of cake and go from there.
Jake, do we have lav mics? We can probably get them, right?
Yeah, we'll just lav everybody up and bowl and talk some ball.
Bowling with the boys.
It's good. It's good. And by the way, Tyler, you should never really bitch about a guy like on a Twitter contest using Twitter to beat you. Okay?
Thank you, Lou.
Are you kidding me? Lou, you dropped that at the end? Are you serious right now?
On my way out.
Spare me. Don't play that shit. Don't play my dead dog sound.
Thank you, Lou.
He broke a promise to me, Lou. He said he didn't need it. He didn't fear me. Big dog T. Milliken showed up and he was shaking. He was trembling.
I wiped my ass with you, Tyler. It wasn't even close.
You know where this is coming from? This is Lou, because in the losers bracket, I took Lou out.
Oh my God.
This is where this is coming from. I think Lou is a little hurt, and he was waiting for this moment.
Did you beat
what
Lou?
You called for
in the losers
the
bracket.
militia. I didn't even throw the Loomer whatever I got going on out there. I didn't.
The fucking Loomer loony bin is coming for your ass next year.
I will acknowledge if Lou retweeted that, Jake, I would have been murked.
Yeah, Jake, you're going down to it next year too. I'm taking this shit serious. Okay, it starts today.
It's going to be a battle.
It starts today. Yeah, it starts.
This tournament is going to tear families apart next year. There's a lot on the line.
Jared, you're out of it.
Yeah, I'm retired. I'm retired.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a new champ.
Yeah, I got asked to step down. I didn't. It wasn't my idea, but I said, you know what? I'm tired of fucking thumping everybody's ass.
It's
people off.
It's like, I don't want to blow you at all, but it's like it's smuck teams, like you drop it out there and you get all these people that, they really should vote against you. is what they should.
That's what they do. That's what they do. They vote against me, and I'm like, listen, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna teach you a lesson. I had to humble Tyler.
You spanked me.
This Amish looking fuck, and I was like, listen, maybe next year you can win if I let you.
I have a nice beard. Lou, is this a nice beard?
It is quality. It's good. I'm wondering if you kind of like fade it though, like up here, like down to like the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, make it
like
look a little bit less like
Makes
shit.
you look. It's very thinning too. As a matter of fact,
I've heard puby. People have described it using that.
Very puby. Yeah,
it could be puby. Depends, I guess. Your curls.
yeah. We got to work on that. We're gonna work on that. All right, Lou. Thank you so much.
All right, boys.
People will be very excited about this episode, and be on the lookout for Bowling with Loomer coming to a YouTube channel near you.
You let me know.
Buenas noches, amigos.